The following podcast is a presentation of Project Entertainment Network.
Welcome to Vicious Whispers with Mark Tullius, your source for horror, sci-fi, suspense, and all things violent.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Thank you so much for joining me today on Vicious Whispers with Mark Tullius. Today we have episode 116. We are in beautiful Bridgewater, Massachusetts with Evan Scott, the drummer of Stone the Oracle, a buddy of mine that I interviewed 8 years ago for Unlocking the Cage. Just a fucking overall interesting dude. So Evan, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for making my day. This is fun to have company, especially after the whole situation we've had.
Yeah, man. That's what I'm realizing too, man. On traveling on the plane, I didn't know how people were gonna be. It was a little nerve-wracking at first, worrying about like, okay, are people gonna be assholes? Because like on social media, all I see, I see a lot of hate.
It's terrible.
It's fucking terrible. But when I got on the plane, dude, everyone was nice. Like people were talking to each other. People were friendly. We went to New York. I was expecting everyone to be assholes, but everyone's saying hello.
Yeah.
At the hotel, like everyone, and I'm going out of my way too. But I don't know. It just seems different. It seems like people want and need that kind of connection. So
absolutely, I think people are completely different than they are in their fake little persona that they created. Everyone says, "Oh, I hate people," but then you see people and. I think, you realize people are pretty good in real life, and I don't know.
And that's, dude, I think that's what it is. When you don't know what the other person's beliefs are, when you don't know that shit, maybe you're Catholic and they're an atheist, and that would upset you, or they're Republican and you're liberal, or whatever it might be. Like when you don't know that shit, you're treating them like a person, they're treating you like a person. So not having all that out there about you and about them, I think it makes it a little bit more real.
Absolutely. The labels have been insane. There's like just so many like ways to break down a person like so quickly, and they think they can just analyze someone by their belief system or just anything, the age group, calling people boomers, all these like names and quick. And it's funny, it is funny, I guess, but at a point it's like it's not that funny because it's
yeah, and it's really easy, I think, for a lot of people to identify as a certain thing. They'll identify as this, like all, they're a liberal, they're whatever, they're this, and so anything that goes against that is an attack on their identity. But I don't know. I think that's one of the things that's awesome about martial arts. I think you kind of lose that identity a little bit.
It's real pure.
Yeah, and when you're on the mat, like how. Have you ever cared what someone else might believe when you're training with them, when you're rolling with them?
I could give a fuck less as long as they're a nice person to me and my students. That's what it's about.
Exactly, man. That's what's awesome, man. It's like no one cares. It doesn't, like, you can see cops working, training with criminals. They don't give a shit. They may not even know, and even if they did, like it's all gone. So just how you are on the mat at that moment, and that's how we should treat each other. Is like, okay, if you're cool with me, fuck, I'm cool with you, and like there's no reason not to be. So that's my overall approach towards life. But
there's a lot less machismo, and people allow themselves to be vulnerable.
For sure. So when we first met, dude, I had never done interviews before. You were in my first group, that first trip. I didn't even know if I was going to do Unlocking the Cage because, I had the idea to go around the country, interview fighters, but in my head I was like, well, fuck, I've never done an interview before. I didn't know how to run a camera. I was a shitty fighter. I had all these reasons not to do it. But then I started doing these interviews. I went to Triforce MMA, and then they led me to you guys, and those interviews were just so fucking awesome. Just having people talking to me, having that interaction, having, getting to hear like, what you guys, your desires and fucking obstacles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that's what motivated me to go to every other interview and to continue the thing. So I appreciate you being willing to do that. And
right back at you. I'm sure I made a lot of people really happy. Everyone likes to be interviewed.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. There's a lot of people are super nervous about it. But then I think it was good too, because they could tell, and I would tell everyone, I was like, man, fucking, I don't know what I'm even fucking doing. Let's just do it. Let's just try it. Let's have fun.
Yeah.
The thing that sucked with yours was how short they all were, because we tried doing it with Chris was sending you guys all to me, I think, during a workout, and so I was trying to fit everyone in. I'm like, okay, fuck, I got 10 or 15 minutes to try to figure out what this guy's about, why he's fighting, this and that. I was listening to your interview today, and you're talking about fighting and what kind of fighters you respect and how much you enjoy jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
What age did you find that? Was it like around 15? You said, was it that in high school?
Yeah, for sure. But I've always had like an interest in it. I did taekwondo and gymnastics when I was real young, like 7-ish, and that kind of led to that whole Ninja Turtle, Bruce Lee, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Honor, that 90s, which they're kind of bringing back now with the Cobra Kai feel, that traditional martial art. That I always dug that stuff. So I was jumping around on the couch and stuff, just running around, and yeah.
Now, so when you first got into it, did you have the dream of fighting? Like, was that kind of a goal?
No, not at all. I probably doubted myself very highly, but then Chris and Joe and these guys were just telling me that I was good enough, and that was actually a huge catalyst in my life, to have people believe in me. So it's awesome.
Yeah.
To this day too, So I gotta kind of honor that and make sure I pass that on.
Dude, I think that is one of the coolest fucking things that you can do for someone, is to bolster their confidence. Because, man, I've always had just dog shit, like no confidence in myself. Very low self-esteem, suicidal my whole life, never thought I would amount to anything. Always putting myself down. But when I would have friends, telling me like, no, it's this and this. This is how we see you. This is how we see you. We don't. So many of us just don't see ourselves. We don't see the positives in ourselves. We could see it in others. Like, I'm great at building up other people because I'm like, oh, this is just what I see in you. Like, here's the awesomeness in you. Here's your potential. Like, I see it. Like, fucking go and do these things. But having that, like, I had that kind of conversation with one of my good friends yesterday, and he was saying like just how much I had helped him. I'm like, dude, I was like, you've helped me. Like, he did this for me. He created a name for my podcast. He made me, have these other ideas. He's done artwork. Like, he's done so much for my confidence. So when you have that back and forth, man, I think that's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And important. And I think a lot of people don't realize that, they might see you, big, strong, good-looking guy, and they're like, oh, well, he doesn't need confidence boost. He doesn't need people to believe in him. He probably believes in himself. But I think everyone can use that. We all have this, we all want to put out a good front that we got it all together or whatever else.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
It comes back to that machismo and being vulnerable thing. So, yeah.
Yeah.
People are good, man. I'm gonna stick by that, even though they, sometimes you get fucked over and sometimes you get burnt. But like, my life got like so much better when I realized it's not all about me. You'll get a lot further in your life if you take other people's interests to heart.
Yeah, no, I do. I think that's an awesome approach. Now, with fighting, what made you decide to stop fighting? Do you think you would ever go back into fighting? Was there any kind of worries about injuries, whether physical or to head trauma or anything like that?
No, I never worried about any of that stuff. When I was fighting, I never gave a fuck. I didn't even have health insurance, all that stuff. It was a little bit different back then, and I probably didn't take it as seriously as I should have, but I didn't get any damage from it or anything like that, so all it did was just good stuff for me.
Because when you were doing it, it was probably, like with me, I had some, once I got into it, that's when I started developing dreams for like UFC, and man, I was a week away before I fucked up my shoulder. I separated my collarbone. But I was fighting just to, I don't know, pretty much for the experience. you
Yeah.
know, and just to do it, you know, and I was very dumb, like, in taking fights. Like, I'd be like, fight next week? Sure, I haven't trained in 3 months, but let's do it. Like, you know, did you kind of have a reckless attitude like that, really? Or did you, you know, because you were probably also working other jobs at the time and not able to put full attention into fighting?
It's crazy when I think back on it. I was doing construction with my father, and I would literally hose myself like off at the job sites just so I could make it back to the gym on time. And I still find my schedule hectic like that, where I'm always like going from place to place, like just making it in time. So sometimes I can't give people the full attention I really want to give them, just because of how go my life is sometimes.
What did you get from fighting? What do you think fighting gave you? Do you think it changed you at all?
Yeah, for sure. It definitely gives you confidence, but also like on a double-edged sword of that, because like you win a fight and you think you're like a demigod, but then the next day, like, you know, you don't treat your diet, or you don't treat it and stay with it, you'll be exposed and pretty vulnerable right back to it. You'll be gasping for air in a second. Mm-hmm. So it for martial arts though, for what really changed it about my life, as soon as I got on Team Aggression and you know, Joe and those people were backing me, I had to change like all the vices I had, because now I wasn't doing it for just me. It was like that old school karate honor, and you gotta, you know, like Joe Pomfret, I don't want to let that guy down.
Yeah.
He's fight dad. So eventually it cut out all my vices, and it cut drinking out of my life, which is amazing. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't know where I'd be if it wasn't for fighting. Actually, I'd probably be, I don't know, not doing good.
And that was one of the cool things. That's one of the reasons why I've stopped by the gym so many times. I haven't been to the new one, but because it is such a positive environment there.
Yeah.
You know, I talked with Joe. I did an interview with him. I think you guys were probably the most interviews in a school, or close to it. Might have been you guys and Winklejohn's.
Nice.
But yeah, just that kind of attitude. Because I've been to other gyms where, like, man, it was all about fighting. It was like,
yeah, some of them they make a product, which is great. But I think you can make that anywhere. You know, you can kind of just train at a gym, and you can just turn yourself up now and pump out a couple good wins and make a compilation video, and you're on your way to the big time. Mm-hmm. But you know, like the pure jiu-jitsu and pure fighting martial arts lifestyle, you know, it definitely I like to be on a team.
Now,
for sure.
What do you think? How would you sell martial arts to somebody, whether it's an adult or a kid? Like, what are some of the things that you've seen as an instructor, you know, that is done for people that you have taught, or other people in the gym?
I think it really clears out the constant analyzation of your own life and worries and stuff like that. And that might just be exercise. And the feeling of completion you have, like, after it. Like, you know, yesterday I went to gi jiu-jitsu, and like right after it I felt like, oh fuck yeah, I got something done today, you know what I mean? And you put yourself through a trial, which is what I would say to people is it's not as scary as it seems at all. I think a lot of times we hype things up, whether it's our careers, our own interests, we overanalyze them, and we kind of block ourselves. But just you hop over that, and it's like a snowball rolling down a mountain. It just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And you can say that about worries and fears too. If you go down the wrong road, it's just gonna escalate. But you get in the gym, and you know, I think some people get embarrassed sometimes and stuff like that. But I think getting over that definitely will help your social skills and help you not worry about stuff. And like, I think everyone gets beaten up, so it might as well be on your own accord.
Yep. No, and those are great points. I think one thing that probably keeps so many people out is that fear of, the fear of the unknown, but then also having to be a beginner. It's like completely not knowing the first thing about something, but how important that is. Like, everyone's a beginner at some point, and you're just going to go. So it's all about taking that first step and just going for it and doing it.
Yeah, and I think procrastination is one of those things that spirals like that. A lot of people have this mentality that, like, in the future, when I'll do it in the future. Even this interview today, I was like, oh, maybe I'll get him to come tomorrow. But then I just, like, you gotta sack up sometimes and just be like, you know what, go for it. What's the worst that can happen? Like, it's gonna be good. Or it's gonna be real.
Yeah, dude, and that's what I do too. It's so easy for me to second guess myself. I'm like, fuck, these guys even want to talk to me. Fuck, I'm just gonna be wasting people's time. Blah blah blah. So all that self-doubt was like, you know what? I'll throw the messages out there, and then if they land, they land. Fucking, and then it'll be awesome. But it's cool. Yeah, I think it's all about taking it. Right on. So now I want to talk about let's talk about music. So I was a little surprised. I've been following you on Facebook off and on. I'm not on all the time, but I was watching you starting to play a little bit. Then it seemed like doing more and more, and then I see that you're in a band, and then it's heathen death metal band Stone the Oracle.
Yeah, is that crazy? You never know what I'm gonna do.
That's pretty fucking nuts. So, what was your first experience with trying to play music? Because I've been trying to teach myself guitar. I always had it in my head that I could never. I just thought either you were born with like a musical talent, or like, and that's it, or you either have it or you don't. But I was like, I'll pick up a guitar and start to try to teach myself a little bit, and I realized like I really enjoy it. I'm no good because I don't put enough time into it. I just fuck around with it. So for you, when was the first time? Like, did you take music classes as a kid? Like, when was the first time you really found it?
My dad is a piano player, and so he exposed me to a lot of like classic rock and like the Who, the Doors, all that stuff. And I started taking piano lessons, and I don't really think I enjoyed it that much, but it was just something that was going on. But then my buddy Brian, he was talking to me in middle school, and I was into that, kind of the punk rock, I don't want to say new metal, but like Korn and the real crunchy 8th grade type of stuff, which crunchy's good though. It makes you feel something. So he said I wanted to sing, and he said, everyone wants to sing, you should get a drum set, everyone's looking for a drum set. And it was absolutely true. I picked up a snare. My dad said, if you like this. So I got a muted snare, and I was just hitting it every single day until I had blisters on every single one of my fingers, and like they turned into these like open cuts. And I remember going to school having a Band-Aid just across every single hand. And then we went and picked out a drum set after that because he knew I was into it. So
now, did you stay with it? How long did you fall out away from it? Like, so how often were you actually playing it?
I was playing every day. Like when I got home from school, all I would do was come home and just bang the drum all day. And I got pretty OCD obsessive about it. If I made a mistake, it would ruin my day. Really? It's a little different from some of my other pursuits with it, because it does have a dark side where if you don't control it, like I was saying, the obsessiveness over it, you can really start to go to the madhouse. They say all creativity kind of either ends in the madhouse.
Yep.
I don't know. There's a good quote about it, but I can't quite remember it.
Now, at that point, did you have dreams of being in a band? Like, was that kind of a goal?
Yeah, I was jamming with a couple bands in high school, and just having fun, and then I kind of made my own project, and I liked the ability to be able to say what you want and stuff, and then I played a couple shows with bands locally and stuff, and I've been to the recording studios, and I've put some miles on there, and then it kind of fell off a little bit, but then when just maybe within the last couple of years, seeing how far technology came and seeing people, like, you don't have to be super talented. If you have the right amount of cash, you can be a great musician, and that really, really intrigued me, and so that's why I went with the electronic drums, because everything was so hard to record, and like everything lo-fi, like, everything was always quality, and that takes a lot of cash to do that. But then when technology increased, it was like, wow, I can make a really crystal clear recording, and that's what I'm super happy about with this band especially, is that it's just finally some high quality, crystal clear, whatever style it is. It's awesome to be able to showcase it and not have any lost in translation moments.
Yeah, no, dude, the drums sound fucking awesome. I really liked, and especially for me, because when I saw, I was like, oh, death metal, I was like, I probably won't even want to listen to it. But no, and the vocals are clean too.
Yeah, we had an original vocalist, and things didn't work out, so I was like, where are things going with this? And he just, I came over one day and he's recording vocals, and it was like almost like, where were you hiding this? And it was awesome, and it came together real fast on the vocals, and it was awesome.
That's cool.
And plus, to be working with Joe and Eric, who are in the band with me, they're just like on a different level and pushing me, where I felt like I was kind of pushing people, which can be frustrating,
Yeah.
So it's about that teamwork, and they're trying to push me further and further and further, and also showing me these whole new avenues of music. Because I listened to metal and rock, but I had never heard like the drumming so savage. I thought I knew like everything about drums. I was getting super almost cocky when I kind of drifted off from playing, and then I hear some of these death metal drummers, and I'm like, damn, like this is what I want to do. I want to get back into this.
Now, what are you listening to when you're just hanging out? What do you listen to for enjoyment? Like, would you normally listen to death metal?
A lot of times when I'm listening to death metal or certain styles of music, it's because I want to draw from the influence. So, like, I think especially with drums, because there's a lot of, like, you can kind of chameleon yourself around there. You end up chasing good drumming to all these different styles, whether it's country, whether it's hip hop, whether it's, you see some solo independent jazz fusion, and I would never listen to jazz fusion, but you give me a hot drum beat and a hot, like, some chops on there, then I'll listen to anything. But definitely metal's in my avenue, not as wild and up tempo as the stuff I've been showed recently. But for enjoyment, I listen to some real soft stuff. My favorite band is Deftones. They always have been, but through them, like, the real softer influences like Morrissey. I fucking love Morrissey. But then I'm all over the place. I like video game remixes, techno remixes, pretty much anything, and I really just try to listen and see what's there. And I have a playlist at the gym that I kind of have specifically for kickboxing to keep that vibe going.
Mm-hmm.
But then I have like just a list of everything I listen to, and that's one of the ones where, like, I hit shuffle play and it could be the hardest song in the world or like the most embarrassing, like Roll Your Windows Up, Melissa Etheridge type shit.
Dude, one of the things, so when I'm teaching myself guitar, it's through this app, but I find myself playing shit like I've never listened to on the radio. I've never like, I don't know. I was embarrassed to admit it, but I'm playing like fucking "Hello" by what is that chick's name? Adele.
Yeah.
And you know all these like.
She got some set of pipes.
Yeah, and all
She can sing.
classical music. Like I was really surprised that like I enjoy playing classical music, and I like all these things that I'd never. So it's helping me appreciate music a lot more, and it's just really interesting that I enjoy playing like pop songs, you know, and I'll like try to force myself to play, you know, Slayer, and I do enjoy playing some of that too. But yeah, man, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's because it's easier or whatever.
It's bringing
but
back good vibes.
Yeah.
When I first started playing acoustic guitar, you know, it was another situation where my daughter was about to be born, and I needed to, you know, settle down and find a hobby while I waited. And I started playing like clutch and like some more bluesgrass stuff on the guitar, and I was like finger plucking, and I was like, well, this is like what I hear in my head and what I think is completely different than what my hand. So it leads you, again, the playing leads you to this different avenue of things.
Now, do you think you would ever? Is the guitar just for fun? Would you ever switch instruments like in a band, like and go with a guitar? Or
I'm definitely, and everyone tells me this too, and it's like a kind of a annoying reminder. They're like, "Oh, you're way better at drums." I'm like, okay, yeah. So that's my instrument, but I like fucking around and being expressive any way I can. Just I don't really play any wind instruments.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like the idea of, you know, blowing into something.
Now, have you ever written your own stuff? Have you written your own songs?
Yeah, maybe a couple years ago or 1 or 2 years ago, I was completely had 11 songs that I was playing on the acoustic guitar, and I was singing, and I was really enjoying doing that. It was totally solitary though, which was, again, it gets kind of stale and lonely.
Yeah.
But the music was lonely, so it fed into that type of emotion. But it's definitely way better to, as we can see by the lockdown, and just, you know, it's better to be around people. So being in a band is like, I would say 10 times better than just, even if you make exactly what you want by yourself, I would rather, you know, it's like, yeah, you can find 3 friends to do that with. It's kind of like, even if you're the best singer, guitarist, or whatever, it's like, yeah, but where's your friends at? Where's your crew?
Yeah. Now, how does it feel playing in front of people, whether it's at a little party or a bar or somewhere bigger? Do you have a set, like, is it similar to competition or fighting where you might have nerves coming on? Do you get a rush from it? Can you compare them at all?
Yeah, it's interesting. The whole deer in headlights thing, I think, is a fear of a lot of people for any type of performance. For fighting, that completely is like erased. Like, the people are not there because you're like very tunnel vision. And I think the two, I usually use this as a metaphor in my life, and a lot of people don't understand what I'm talking about because I'm terrible at metaphors and kind of confusing sometimes. But I think people have that. I've seen fighters who get ramped up with their intros, you know. So I see this crossbreed between entertainers and fighters, where when I was fighting, all I thought about was fighting. Pomfret always told me, like, he's like, don't put on a show, you know, so you got to calm that down. Whereas I think in music, you have to put on a show. But both of them, you got to kind of, you know, stay focused on what you're doing rather than just, you know, making some statement.
Yeah, because it seems, I don't know, it seems like it would be, I was always so afraid of public speaking. Now I've gotten over that, but the thought of going up and trying to play music in front of someone else and how easy it would be to mess up, like, I don't know. But I guess it's just like anything else. If you put in the time, if you get so good at it, so confident, then you'll do fine.
I think, hard work makes the difference because it becomes this thing that you don't want to fuck up. But you also have to, again, balance that with you know, how loose you are. So you don't want to be too loose and like just let it fucking fall all over the place, but you don't want to be too rigid and uptight that you can't move and it matters the world to you. So you got to be able to deal with that.
Awesome. All right, so now what are the plans for Stone the Oracle? Do you guys have so I saw on what is it, Bandcamp? You have 2 songs out?
stonetheoracle.bandcamp.com, and we got 2 songs up. So people have been giving some donations. We sold the first track for like $1 or something, but people were giving crazy, like a little bit extra, and
nice.
just to show support. Some people were donating like $6.66, which was kind of funny, you know. But the EP comes out tomorrow on Bandcamp and all these other different streaming services, and it's been it'll be really cool. And we also have a show August 27th, and we'll see what we're gonna do from there.
Awesome.
So it should be it was like that year in lockdown, and then they in Massachusetts at least, they said you can take off the masks, and you know, pretty much all of this is just, it's like unleash the Kraken.
Yeah.
It's like we were in a year of lockdown, making these songs and recording these songs and going through all that, and just now we're out of the cage, unlocking the cage.
There you go. Dude, and that's one thing I've really noticed. People either took the pandemic, either they grew from it and they were productive and they're fucking come out of it running, or they just couldn't deal with it. And I understand some people were just in terrible situations and it was fucking awful. I get that, but I think a lot of people just let it really set them back, you know.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I think I don't really get to see the whole world, so I think it's hard because people are talking about where they're specifically from, and you can see, you know, almost how selfish some people are. I don't mean, you know, in the way of like whatever the whole what your opinion on current events is. I mean, like, if you're from California, like I had no idea that there's still masks going on there.
Mm-hmm.
See, like in my mind, because I'm a human being, I'm selfish too. I think, oh, everyone in the world's got it's over, everything's fine. But I think some people were in rougher situations, and I don't know if that was totally inspired by just how wild the events were, or just the feeling of being contained, or like things weren't going to get better. I know, sadly, people you know, took their own lives, and then for some people they took it as a time to really do something. Like my girlfriend started a craft business, and she like dove into it obsessively, and I was like, this is awesome. And so that was a big influence for me, so I tried to do the same thing.
That's super cool. All right, so you said your daughter's 5 years old?
Yep.
So how has that, being a dad, how has that changed your life, if it did? I know having a daughter for me definitely changed who I was.
I don't think it changed my my life all too much, other than just for the better.
Mm-hmm.
You know, obviously it can be like frustrating at points, and it can be scary when you're about to have a kid, and the whole situation can be wild, but like there's something to always, you know, keep me going, which is amazing. And then you get to experience all these like wicked cool things, like watching Disney movies all over again. You're like, oh yeah, it's for her, and she's not even watching it, and I'm just watching it, and I can be like, yeah, it's for my daughter.
Dude, my daughter was like 4 and 5 when we watched all like the Lord of the Rings and shit like that. It's like she's a little traumatized by it, but she'll be okay. But no, I've been very lucky. I was able to spend so much time and be a stay-at-home dad, like spend a lot of time with my kids. But at the same time, it's all about trying to find that balance. So like, okay, I was neglecting a lot of my work because I wanted to spend so much time with them.
Yeah.
So that could be hard at times too.
Yeah, no, it didn't, like, everyone thinks maybe I stopped fighting because I had a kid or something like that, and really that wasn't an issue at all. And I'm still as good as I was. Nothing's slowing me down.
There you go. All right, man. Well, we better wrap it up before it does rain, and I have to pick up my son from camp. But so for everyone, does Stone the Oracle have their own website? Do you guys have a website, or should people just go to Bandcamp? Look
Stone the Oracle, bandcamp.com. Pick up the EP, which will be on digital release, but we'll also have some tangible actual CDs made, which I'm really excited about, because that's not around anymore. You can't really touch the records anymore, or it's not as big as it was. But yeah, just Stone the Oracle. You can look up my Facebook page. I'm always talking about it. And then stonetheoracle.bandcamp.com. It's on YouTube too, I think. So
awesome, man. Well, thanks so much for doing this, dude. I appreciate
it's great
it.
To see you.
Yeah, no, this is super cool. We'll go out on a short story from 25 perfect days plus 5 more. This is 18 is enough, and I will talk to you guys next week. Later.
"18 is enough." May 8th, 2057. National Guardsman Cody Bradford walked down the shaded path of the way, rifle at the ready. Everything was deathly still, not a student to be seen or professor heard. He'd survived 16 years in a way camp, but this was somehow more terrifying. Sunlight flickered off a shrine up on the left. 5 sets of benches surrounded an enormous statue of the Reverend, holding his Bible in the air. His other arm was spread wide, welcoming the gray skies and dead grass, bodies scattered across the campus, piles of shoes and scraps of burnt clothes everywhere. Cody paused at the start of the hill and turned the amplifier in his right ear to its highest setting. On top of the hill, he saw a giant set of stairs leading to the looming 8-story Murphy building. Cody had to hurry. People were depending on him. He continued up the path, kept close to the trees. When Cody got to the stairs, he threw his back against a brick column, slowed his breathing, and prepared for the ascent. Something touched his shoulder, and he almost screamed, but felt foolish as the dry breeze blew a faded brown shirt sleeve off the column and into the air. The penalty for going AWOL was automatic death. Cody still didn't see a soul, but he had no choice but to go forward. To head back risked being spotted, and he'd made a vow, committed to the National Guard. Cody couldn't turn his back on the men he'd trained with, even after all he'd witnessed. Cody checked the building's closed door and every window on the north side. He started up the stairs, 1 step, then 2, his heartbeat thumping in his ear. He gripped the rifle. Someone was watching, but he didn't know from where. He was exposed. 1 wrong move and he was dead, so Cody stilled his breath, listened. Leaves in the distance, but no footsteps, just the breeze. Then the slight rasp of the window being opened. Somewhere above and to the left, the sun flashed off the barrel of a gun 4 stories up. Cody's body swiveled. He aimed, fired 3 short blasts, the amplified report shattering his eardrum. A body fell from the window. Cody ripped the amplifier from his ear and threw it to the ground. The legs of the gunman splattered on the concrete with a wet, crackling thud, but Cody could barely hear it. It felt as if a knife had ripped through the side of his head, the blade twisting in his brain. There was no way he'd hear another window opening, maybe not even a shot. Cody ran the last dozen steps. He spread against the landing and put his back to the wooden door. The searing pain made it hard to think. He took 1 Teflon-armored hand off his rifle and touched his ear. Clear pus coated the tip of his glove. His eardrum liquefied. He was just another member of the ever-growing ranks of the walking wounded. He should have known better than to rely on the malfunctioning amplifier. The National Guard was never issued the best equipment. He should have had covering fire. If half of the military wasn't in South America fighting the worst guerrilla war in history, and the other half wasn't quelling riots in the former Canada and the rest of this country, maybe the National Guard could have gone into the university with more than 12 men. Maybe the rest of Cody's squad would still be alive. But he couldn't change any of that. Cody still had a job, and if he was ever going to find out what really happened to his parents, then he needed to get his shit together. If they'd suspected him of anything, he'd be out or dead. Intelligence said the squad that had been dispatched to the university 2 days prior was holed up inside this building. The last report was 10 hours old. It'd come just moments before La Causa had accessed the mainframe and knocked out all communication. Cody wiped off his glove, gripped his rifle with both hands, and faced the door. If someone was inside the building, they already knew he was out there. Friend or foe, he was about to find out. Cody banged twice on the door, then moved 3 feet to his left. Nothing. No sound at all. Cody feared he hadn't knocked hard enough. His ear still pulsing, he was about to repeat the process when the door shook against his shoulder. 2 knocks. Friendlies inside giving him the go. If it was a trap, it was too late to do anything. Cody knocked twice to signal he was coming in, pulled open the door, and entered the dimly lit lobby. A group of 4 guardsmen were huddled in the shadows, guns aimed at him in the staircase. A swarm of flies hovered over someone on the ground. A San Angeles controlling force agent lay motionless, his face a bullet-riddled mess. Fuller, the senior officer, looked more like a kid than a first lieutenant. He held the hand of an injured guardsman on the hardwood floor, a backpack propping up his head. Cody said, "Private Bradford reporting, sir." Fuller asked where was the rest of his squad. Cody clenched his jaw and shook his head. The guardsman closest to the staircase said, "Don't believe this douchebag, LT. Sabotage runs in his family. He probably shot them all himself." Cody realized the guardsman was Todd Jaworski, one of his asshole instructors from the academy. Cody told the lieutenant about the snipers in the parking lot. Didn't mention how 8 of the dead had been initiates with him at the camp. Fuller said, "You two know each other?" Jaworski said, "Yeah, this guy's dad's the one who fucked the world." Cody couldn't control his volume, his head splitting from the earache. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Yeah? Well, his crazy-ass mom tried to pin it on us. Said it wasn't the Muslims, fucking nut jobs, the whole family." "Knock it off, Sergeant." Fuller let go of the injured man's hand and stared at the bloody pus from Cody's ear. He pulled a small syringe from his med kit and motioned Cody closer. The tip of the needle touched the side of the ear canal. "Look at me," Fuller said. "You'll be fine." The needle went in, and cold fluid filled Cody's ears, numbed the pain and muffled the ringing. Cody glanced at the black teenager sitting on the floor, back to the wall. His stomach and right leg were wrapped with field dressings, most of the white fabric stained dark red. 2 injured, 3 healthy. Not good odds for a safe retreat. "Are we waiting for reinforcements?" Cody asked. "Last I heard, my squad was it, so it'd probably be a while if anyone does show up." "We can't wait for that," Fuller said. Cody motioned toward the guard on the ground. "Do you want me to cover you guys, or carry him?" Fuller shook his head. "We're not going anywhere. They'll pick us off one by one before we're halfway down those stairs." "I took one out. Didn't see anyone else." "They let you up," Jaworski said. "Probably saw your name tag and figured you were on their side." Not caring that Jaworski was his superior and almost twice his size, Cody got in Jaworski's face. "I told you two to cut the crap," Fuller said. "Jaworski's right about them letting you up, but it's because they want us to leave. We're fortified here. Once we're out those doors, we're easy pickings." Fuller was right. Cody asked him, "So what do we do?" "The job we were sent to do," Fuller said. "We clear this building and rescue any hostages that might be alive upstairs." "Let's kill us some fucking spics then," Jaworski said. The guard on the ground kept his eyes closed when he spoke for the first time. He sounded even weaker than he looked when he called Jaworski an asshole. "I didn't mean you, Gonzalez. It's just the rest of your banditos I could do without." With his eyes still shut, Gonzalez said, "My people know what happened in Canada." Yeah, Jaworski was no longer watching the stairs. "Fuck you, Gonzalez." "Enough," Fuller said. "You all need to shut your mouths and do as I say if you want to get out of this alive. Understood?" After everyone copied, Fuller turned to Cody. "I want you and Jaworski up those stairs. Clear this building and bring back any hostages." "Are there any hostages left?" Cody asked. "It's been 3 days. "Are you questioning my order?" "No, not at all. Just asking, sir. Just want to know what I'm going into." Fuller suddenly looked older, his eyes cold. "You got 3 seconds to get up those stairs." Cody said yes, sir, and Fuller tossed him a bright blue vial. Jaworski bit the cap off his syringe and spit it out. "You better watch my back, you little shit." The neck disappeared into the side of Jaworski's neck. "And do your best not to kill me." Cody had never zeroed in before, but he'd done the walkthrough in training. The instructor had warned if you did too much, your brain would pop. Some guys couldn't get off the stuff after they returned home, but worrying about getting hooked was pretty stupid right now. Reaction time was the only thing that might save his life. Cody slammed the syringe into his neck, felt the cold electricity under his veins. Everything was so bright, so focused. The syringe fell to the ground, both his hands on the rifle. He said, "I'll take the lead." Jaworski grabbed Cody's arm. "Settle down, jitterbug." He stepped over the rotting agent and started up the stairs, his boots squelching in the congealed blood coating each step. Flies swarmed, and Cody could make out each flap of their wings. Jaworski gave a signal, and Cody took the right side of the stairs, stayed 3 steps behind the sergeant. Cody's finger hugged the trigger. Jaworski's heavy breathing sounded too rapid. Cody wondered if he'd taken too much. Jaworski paused at the second-floor landing, his rifle trained on the doorway. Cody crept past him and crouched in the corner, covered the third-floor landing. Jaworski left Cody by himself and checked the hallway. Sweat trickled down Cody's forehead as the seconds ticked by. Each one felt like a minute. This was why they said getting zeroed in was like hitting a pause button. Every sound distinct, every detail so clear. From the hallway, someone yelled in Spanish. The blast of Jaworski's repeater boomed several times against the rat-a-tat-tat of machine gun fire. Then, everything stopped, and a few moments later Jaworski appeared back on the landing, holding his right arm, bright red blood pumping through his fingers. Jaworski squatted next to Cody. "Floor's cleared." Cody looked for something to plug Jaworski's hole, but the sergeant swatted him away. There was movement up above. On the third-floor landing, a young boy leaned over with an Uzi. Cody yelled for Jaworski to move, but the kid had already squeezed the trigger, covered them with a blanket of bullets. Cody fired blindly up the staircase as bullets bounced off his helmet and shoulder pads. Something warm sprayed Cody's cheek. Then a thud. Jaworski lay flat, 2 bullet holes punched through the side of his face. Finally, the shooting stopped. Cody's proton pack was empty, so he grabbed Jaworski's rifle, yanked it from his lifeless fingers. Cody looked up. The kid was gone, just a pile of smoking clothes where he'd last stood. Fuller called from below, "Jaworski! Bradford!" Cody yelled that the sergeant was dead. He hoped the lieutenant would shout for him to come back. They'd wait for reinforcements. But no orders came, so Cody said, "I'm heading up." Fuller said nothing. Cody's proton pack flashed green, so he switched out the rifles and headed up, the blue drug steadying his shaking hands. He was only one man, but one man could ruin the entire world. That's what Jaworski had said about Cody's father. A lot of people did. If Cody wanted to find out who was really responsible for his father's death and sending the Americas down the drain, he had to act like a soldier and clear this building. Time seemed to stop and rush by all at once as Cody checked every hallway and cleared each classroom. He stepped over bodies, students, teachers, and agents, all rotting as one. Piles of clothes proved that the agents had dealt some damage as well. Cody felt confident on the 5th floor, enough to distract him, even on the drug. He passed a sign for the physics department and thought of his father. 2 men jumped into the hallway and opened fire. Cody dropped to his stomach as bullets sailed overhead and ricocheted off the wall. He fired a particle beam to the brown bandana wrapped around the taller one's face. The shorter one was hit with 3 beams, not much left of either man by the time they touched the ground. The rest of the 5th floor was empty, except for dead bodies behind every door. Cody found the same on the 6th and 7th floors. Decaying flesh, curdled blood, body parts. It was hard to imagine this is what the revolution wanted, but it's what they got. Hoping the last floor was just as empty, Cody climbed the final flight of stairs. He was halfway down the hall when he heard the hushed voices. Definitely Spanish. Cody peeked around the corner. 2 men with assault rifles stood outside the last door on the left, both of their backs turned. Easy targets. They were the enemy and had to be eliminated, but Cody had never shot a man in the back. These 2 were soldiers. They deserved the opportunity to surrender. Plus, Cody didn't want to risk his proton pack draining. The room might be Lauzon's headquarters. A dozen resistance fighters could be behind the door. Cody pulled a vaporizer grenade from his utility belt and armed the timer for 2 seconds. With only his eyes exposed, Cody yelled for the men to drop their weapons. They turned and opened fire. He tossed the grenade. A silent flash ripped through the hallway. Cody stayed down until the bullets stopped. He crawled out. The men were gone, their clothes and weapons bunched on the floor, the walls undamaged. Cody felt guilty. At least with the primitive guns of the resistance, bodies could be buried. Cody just erased his enemies. He kept his rifle aimed at the door, headed down the hallway. Standing to the side of the door, Cody tried the knob. It was locked. Fine. If they didn't want to come out, he'd go in. Cody stepped in front of the door and kicked it. The door flew open and he rolled into the room. A man in black armor stood behind an overturned desk, his arm around a dark-haired Hispanic girl's throat, a rag stuffed in her mouth. The man fired. A particle beam slammed into Cody's chest, and he stumbled back. His armor absorbed the protons. The man tried to fire off another shot, but his pistol had lost its charge. Cody took aim. The man held up his gun and shouted, "Cease fire, I'm American, controlling force agent." The teenage girl's hospital gown was ripped and bloodied, her left breast exposed. Her face was battered and turning the same shade of blue as the dress draped across the desk in the corner, 2 high heels on the floor. Still zeroed in, Cody's mind puzzled together the scene. The 2 resistant fighters outside weren't protecting this room. They were trying to get in. Cody asked the girl, "Are you Lauzon?" She shook her head. "Of course she is," the controlling force agent shouted. "Now lower your weapon." His pistol was almost charged. He began to aim it, but not at Cody. The barrel was heading for the girl's temple, her eyes wide and terrified. Cody squeezed the trigger. The agent's face gone. The pistol clattered to the floor, and the girl collapsed onto the desk. Cody stepped over the disappearing agent and undid the girl's gag, helped her to sit. She curled into a ball, her back rising with each deep breath. Cody looked over at the dress in the corner. "Did he do that?" "Yes." "You're okay now, you're safe." She looked at the pile of the agent's clothes. "They brought me here. They said tests or termination." The way she kept curling into herself told Cody he didn't want to know what they'd done. "But La Causa came to rescue you?" The girl nodded. "How do you know?" The girl shook with fear. Cody knew it was true. He looked to the left and saw the control room, the smoking computers and particle beam chart equipment. He saw the examination table, the stirrups. Fuller started shouting. Maybe 5 floors down. Not much time. Cody saw a man's body in the corner, a professor, his face bloodied and mangled, like he'd been beaten with a pipe. Fuller's voice, 4 floors down. "Help me," Cody said to the girl. "Grab that." He pointed at the agent's armor. She dragged it to Cody, who threw it over the professor's head, slipped in his arms. 3 floors. The girl finally realized what Cody was doing, helped him dress the professor. 2 floors. Cody saw the professor's loafers, quickly flung them off, reached for the agent's boots. 1 floor to go. Cody crammed in 1 foot, started the other when, "Bradford!" From down the hallway, Fuller said, "Answer me!" Cody pushed the girl in front of the desk and told her to stay down. "In here, Lieutenant, everyone eliminated." Fuller stepped inside the room. "No survivors?" Cody noticed the agent's heel sticking out of the boot. He stepped in front of it and told Fuller, "No one." "They even got one of the controlling force agents." Fuller looked down, saw the mangled face. He started to bend down. Cody saw the girl's fingers on the floor. "The building's clear, but we should move. There could be more coming," Cody said. Fuller nodded, stood straight. "It all goes." He tossed Cody a yellow package. "Take out the entire level." "Yes, sir, once you're all clear." Cody pointed to the window. "I can cover you from here to the parking lot. It's our best chance." Fuller was slow to answer. "You're a hell of a soldier, Bradford. You make your country proud." It was like he was reading lines from some controller's pamphlet. Cody thanked the lieutenant and walked him out the door. At the top of the stairs, Fuller said, "This stuff we see, you can't let it bother you, and you can't talk about it either. La Causa blew the building." "I understand." Cody waited until it sounded like Fuller was down at least 2 floors. When he returned to the testing room, the girl was still in a ball. He forced his way into the storage room, next to the control panel, and came out with a bag of clothes. He went over and threw in the blue dress. Cody set them in front of the girl. He noticed her plastic wristband. Vanessa Salazar. Cody walked to the far side of the room and opened the yellow package. "We don't have a lot of time, so get dressed." She sat there, holding the dress to her breasts. "I'm not going to look," he said. He gave her space and packed strips of the explosive into all 4 corners. The girl wasn't wearing the blue dress. She had on a pair of jeans and a shirt 2 sizes too big. "You're going to let me go?" Cody walked up to her. "No, I'm going with you." "They'll kill you." Cody took his spot at the window and watched Fuller hobble down the hill with the 2 injured men. "They'll figure it was the explosion. We won't be missed." "But I have nowhere to go," Vanessa said. Cody looked to the mountains, covered in the gray mist. "There are groups. We just have to stay hidden until we find them."
This has been a presentation of the Project Entertainment Network.